G'day, folks. So ServiceMate have just done their big annual release update for 2023. So a little bit later than normal for ServiceMate. I guess that's because they've been working on such cool stuff. There's so much AI that's been released and built into ServiceMate now. It's amazing. So lots and lots and lots of AI, which I'll go into in a minute. But I'll start with, I guess, what you could call stuff we've been waiting for freaking ages. And the first one to mention there would be the ability to now pass on credit card fees to the customer. So if you're taking credit card payments via ServiceMate, you can now choose whether you pass on those fees to the customer or not. So we've been waiting for that one for ages. We've had customers complaining to us about that one for a long time, and we've been banging on about it. So great that that's finally there. And it's pretty unique in that you can also configure parameters around when you want to pass on the fee and when you don't, based on invoice value. So that's great. That's something we've been waiting for ages. And tied in with that is there's also now an improvement to the sync to the accounting packages. So it's now a two-way sync. So if you change anything on an invoice in ServiceMate, like add a credit card fee after the invoice has been pushed into the accounting package, it will now update the invoice with the new information on it. So that's really cool. That's helpful. There's been some improvements to the inbox. So ServiceMate Inbox. A lot of our clients don't know about Service Inbox and how to use it, but those that do, you'll understand that once you've got a lot of messages coming into your inbox, it can be a little bit difficult to manage. So just some improvements around management of that as a search function. You can now filter by inbox message type. You can multi-select multiple inbox messages and remove or update. So just some improvements around managing the inbox and making it a little bit more useful when you've got lots and lots of stuff in there. Bundles was released last year, and they've improved, had an improvement to bundles where you can now copy a bundle. So if you've created a bundle and it's got a description, you want to make a slight change to it and create a variation on it, you can now copy a bundle and make whatever tweaks. So that's really helpful. And also some improvements to ServiceMate Phone. So in the past, ServiceMate Phone has been a little bit patchy when you've got poor data connection or internet connection because it's running over the data network. There's now a fallback to the cellular network when you've got poor data connection, so you can be making calls over the cellular network. So that'll be better. And there's also improvements to the transcription of the ServiceMate Phone calls. And that transcription going into the job diary. And that's probably a good segue into talking about some of the AI. You can now record up to 2-minute videos within a job, and AI will transcribe the audio content of the video and turn it into a note that's saved into the job diary. So that'll be really cool for walking around a site, dictating what you need to do or what you've done, and then it turns that into a text note that can then be used in other places or tied in with some of the AI I'll talk about in a second. So some other little improvements: you can now group checklist items together. So that's going to be really useful when you've got a lot of checklist items in there for different parts of a job. So that's cool. We can bring PDFs into a job now and annotate them or mark them up, so you can add signatures to them. You can draw on them, so it might be a set of plans that you need to mark up or whatever. So that'll be pretty useful. Some improvements to room scanning, which was released last year. So the room scans can now be used to turn into floor plans, and you can also annotate or mark up those room scans, so you can add shapes and images to them, and you can measure within a room scan now. So you can measure from point A to point B once you've generated that room scan. Some improvements to inquiry forms, again around AI. So now when you've got a customer web inquiry form, you can ask questions in that inquiry form, and ServiceMate will automatically prompt the person filling out the form it asks more questions essentially to gather more information. So there's some artificial intelligence that'll look at the response that's submitted by the person and then ask for more information. So that'll be quite useful just to get a bit more detail. Some improvements to supplier invoice importing. You can now, when you import supplier invoices into a job, you can now split out the line items. And so you might have a couple of things on there that you don't want to charge to the customer. Might have bought some tools or something from the supplier. You can take those lines out now because it's going to split out the individual lines instead of just all going in as one lump sum. So that's useful. Improvements to automations. So now when you're doing quote follow-ups or invoice payment follow-ups, instead of just one email and one SMS, you can now create a schedule of multiple emails and multiple SMS messages. So you're creating a bit more, I guess, a bit more of a structure to how you're following things up to get a bit more result out of that. That'll be useful. And then that kind of leads us into more of the AI functionality, and a lot of AI around written content within your jobs. So now when you type out a work completed or a job description or an email, you can now choose the smart writing helper to either improve what you've written or even generate written content from a bunch of dot points, or even just the AI system will look at the notes that are on the job and the video transcriptions that are on the job, and it will automatically generate some written content of work completed and even automatically do quoting and invoicing. So I'm really keen to see how accurate that's going to be in generating quotes and invoices, where it will create a work description. It'll add line items into the quote and into the invoice. So really keen to see how accurate that's going to be. But that's a bit of a game changer, because as Darren said at the start of the presentation, the only thing you should have to do is what you're paid to do. And so they've put a lot of effort into creating as much automation and utilizing the artificial intelligence to automatically create this stuff to avoid us having to do manual data entry. So they're the first of our software partners that's really embraced AI and actually made it part of every job. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. I want to get my hands on it and have a bit of a play with it and see how it all works. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. And last big one with the AI, or not with AI, but improvement, I suppose, is there's now a function for proposals, and that is kind of a lead on from quotes. Traditionally, you've been able to create a quote as a PDF document you send to a customer, or it might be an online PDF that the customer can view. But this proposals function creates a much richer and much more interactive experience for the person that's receiving the proposal, where you can now incorporate groupings of items with photos, like a gallery. You can create options, optional colors, optional items. You can have subtotals of amounts on the proposal. So it's a much more detailed and rich experience, I guess, probably more for your larger jobs or projects, because it's kind of giving you that ability to group things together and create those options. So really cool addition. We've been using proposal software within TradiePad for years for presenting our proposals, but this is the first of our job management tools that's actually gone to that proposal level. So you can obviously still do quotes if you've got a quick one to get out there, but the proposals are a much more rich and vibrant content that you can present to your clients. So yeah, keen to see that one. Little bit disappointed that we didn't see more functionality around managing that project type work, because now we can create good proposals for it, but the managing of that project work is still, there's still some gaps in ServiceMate for that, like around invoicing if we've got a large project that we want to split into progress claims. Still a bit tricky to manage that. And things like costing, like tracking costs, against jobs where they're section based like that, or that they're broken into groups of larger jobs where we want to get a bit more visibility of job cost or maybe quoted versus actual. So still missing a few things, but all in all, the update is really, really cool. And of course, in true ServiceMate style, there's always one more thing. And the one more thing was, of course, AI. And it was around a voice chat interface. So it's like ChatGPT built into ServiceMate using voice prompts. So you can now activate a chat within ServiceMate, and you can ask questions, which if you're driving around the town and you want to know some information about a job that's coming up, you can now voice ask the questions, and ServiceMate will look up the information and dictate it back to you in a pretty corny American accent, but it'll give you job information like what's coming up, what material you need, any instructions that you need to do. So I'm keen to have a bit of a play with that and just see how accurate it is and how useful, I suppose, it is. I don't know whether people are actually going to use it or not, but really keen to hear from you guys out there whether or not any of this stuff is going to be useful for you and what you're going to use, and really keen to hear feedback on how the AI is actually functioning, because ChatGPT and the other AI tools like Bard and the other tools that are out there can be a bit hit and miss, sometimes not super accurate. So keen to hear your feedback and keen to hear your actual interaction with this stuff, just to hear how it's actually working in practice. Because in theory, it's awesome, but when it comes down to the rubber hitting the road, it comes down to whether or not it actually works. So let us know how you go with it all. Keen to hear your feedback and your thoughts.